Okay, I want you guys to imagine yourselves walking that as a 5, 6, 7-year-old or as a 55-year-old woman. Instead of going to school, instead of raising your family, you're walking down here with 2 5-gallon buckets and you're carrying as much water as you can from right here all the way back up to where we went. The narrow areas, the areas where you had to grab a tree. Imagine not having a hand to grab a tree. Imagine having a 50-pound bucket on your head of water. And however much you get back to your house without spilling, that's how much you had right there. And then they had to make a decision. Am I gonna walk back, get more water? And that's how kids miss school. That's how women aren't allowed to work other jobs, because their responsibility for their families, for their communities, is to walk back and forth fetching water 3, 4, 5 hours a day, carrying as much as they have.
Learning about this relentless cycle of fetching water day after day is exactly what motivated Danny Rodriguez to create a non-profit organization that strives to end the struggle in the Dominican Republic.
There's still over 663 million people in the world that don't have access to clean water. There's still over 1 billion people in the world that don't have access to a sanitary toilet. More people in the world have cell phones than toilets. And for us, that's our motivation. Our motivation is making sure that clean water and sanitation is a right for everyone on this earth.
A motivation that is fueled by the life-changing impact created when one attends a Blue mission.
Coming over here and seeing what poverty looks like for the very first time is totally perspective shifting, because there's one thing to know that there's a water crisis and to know the statistics. There's 663 million people that lack access to clean water. But it's something completely different to know one person that is your friend who didn't have access to clean water.
You asked, 10 people to stand up, and 1 out of every 10 people don't have access to clean drinking water. So it's, I can give them, the hundreds of millions of people that don't have access to clean water, all of the numbers, that are globally, that are large numbers that in their head, to me, it's just a big number. I can't relate to that. But if, you ask them to walk through the different sources that they have in their home, and you get that number and you understand that you're going somewhere that doesn't have any of that, and you break that down for them, it helps them understand that this is real.
While Blue Missions helps today's youth learn about the water crisis, the organization's founder was first impacted by this issue on another mission trip.
My first experience in the campo opened my eyes and taught me to appreciate everything I had. And after 3 years of traveling with LIFO, I felt a calling to do more.
My father and his best friend started up their own organization called LIFO, which stands for Living Instruments for Others. It's a water project as well that Blue does, that goes to rural towns in the Dominican Republic to give clean water for towns that don't have it available to them.
I wanted to keep going back and helping these communities, and LIFO Missions had to take new volunteers. So the founder of LIFO Missions approached my sister and I and said, why don't you guys start a group, and instead of helping one town each year, LIFO can go to one community and Blue can go to another community, and our impact can double. And to us, that was a great idea, because we had recruited a lot of friends, a lot of family to travel with us on these projects, and they also wanted to continue to go.
In 2010, I knew that Danny had gone to the DR with friends to do something. I didn't know what. And so in 2011, I called them up and I said, are you still going to the DR to do something? I didn't know what it was. And he said, yeah, we're going to go do a water project. And so in 2011, I went on my first mission trip, my first service trip, and I met Leslie.
So when I was 16 years old, I went on LIFO to build an aqueduct project in the Dominican Republic. And going on that trip completely changed my life. It opened my eyes not only to a world that was completely different than anything I had experienced before, but also to my calling.
In their first year, Blue helped the community of La Penda. 7 years later, Blue has impacted over 70 communities and 1,500 volunteers, all while staying true to their mission.
Blue stands for Building Love, Uniting Everyone. And that's exactly what our mission is all about. Our mission is to expose today's youth to the great need that exists in our world, and by doing that, molding global citizens that'll go out and take on some of the world's biggest challenges. What changed our life was the water crisis and the sanitation crisis, witnessing that.
And while today's youth look for different ways to help, Blue Missions brings students over 800 miles. From the serenity of South Florida to the difficulties of the Dominican Republic, high school students come every year to help do their part in the fight against the water crisis.
So in this week, we're in the community of Atabalero Arriba, in the Dominican Republic, with a group of 40 Columbus High School boys, which is pretty crazy.
Bienvenidos a todos y todas, porque vi que también llegaron damas. Vamos a estar acá, esta es la comunidad de Atabalero Arriba, donde hay un pequeño grupo de hombres y mujeres, niños y jóvenes, muy laboriosos y que les esperábamos con anhelo.
Blue Volunteer signs up for a trip and they have no idea what to expect. And they end up out here in the campo living without access to running water, using a latrine for the first time, and it throws them off completely.
We like to say that the blood of Blue is our volunteers. The volunteers are what keep our staff young.
Peter, you're walking too slow, Peter. We're waiting for you, Peter. We need that shovel, Peter.
Go, Petey.
Let's go, let's go, let's go!
Do you believe in fairies, Peter?
The volunteers are what make the projects go. The volunteers are what allow us to grow operationally. And without them, none of this is possible.
The everyday work that we push on to our volunteers, when it's trenching, blowing pipe, building a tank, hammering nails in a latrine, it's not just that physical part of this mission, but also the mental and emotional part that's very challenging to our volunteers.
By exposing volunteers to these challenges, the Blue Mission staff hopes to help young people find fulfillment through humanitarianism.
It's important to realize that we all have a say in the global economy of giving. That's really the overall message with our volunteers, is making sure they understand what it is to be a global citizen, that everybody has their part in this economy of giving.
This is my first time here, and we're here trying to help them get water to the campo.
Carlos Diaz is one of the several volunteers who traveled to Atabalero as part of the mission.
The reason why I came on this trip was because mainly it was different. It's something I haven't done. I'm always home or on the boat, or, you know, I've never really been to something like this or been able to see this side of the world. It first hit us when we got to the city, when we passed Santo Domingo, that it was like very run down. There was like, you know, it was all dirty, like trash on the streets, people outside selling food everywhere, and the cars, you know, it's not the same as the US.
So the students that come on these trips are really young. For the most part, all they've been exposed to is their bubble at home. When they first get here, they're really struggling with, you know, the conditions that they're living in, and they're just trying to overcome being uncomfortable. But they build these amazing bonds with the locals.
Más fácil. No, más fácil, mira. Empieza acá. Así. Entonces le da. Ala.
Que no empiece por allá, empiece por
Ajá,
aquí.
le da ahí.
And it's those bonds that help volunteers change their perspective and get through the mission.
So being in the campo, you're kind of roughing it. So you're uncomfortable. You can end up not feeling well. Some things always go wrong in the projects.
I'm soaked. I think I broke an electrical pipe. And now Captain Solo over there told me, hey, you're right there. I tap it 2 inches in, pop the pipe. It's my luck. It's a bad day.
Whenever we're faced with a tough challenge, we can be positive about it. And sometimes we'll just, you know, something is going wrong and everything's crazy, and we'll just look at each other and laugh because, you know, we're just friends, and we know that we'll get past it.
Part of the way those friendships are built is in how Blue approaches a day in the campo.
So we were about to head out to start our work day, and it started pouring. So we're just gonna live in the moment.
Live in the moment is one of our many mantras that we stick to during the trip to kind of guide the way that we lead and the style of our trip. It's basically the answer to most questions that anyone asks us about what is happening. And it really annoys them at first, but then they start telling it to each other. And it's really all about disconnecting from distractions and connecting with what's right in front of you.
Even with the help and dedication from the volunteers, the water projects wouldn't work without the help and support of the community.
These are community-led projects, and for us that's a very special part of our project, to see these communities rise up together and solve their own issues. We're empowering them to take on this issue, and water is the foundation. That's why it's so special. Once you receive a water project, once you successfully conquer the water crisis in your community, you can go out and take on new challenges. You can bring a school to your community. You can bring a clinic to your community. You can get the roads paved in your community. But you need water. Water is that foundation.
Entonces no las quiero lejos. La quiero en el día de las mujeres que Blue Mission le prepara.
Women's Day is a really important part of our work because it's an opportunity to educate the women about how to use this water that they now have in their homes. It's also an opportunity to teach them something empowering. And Damaris is so good at doing this. She teaches the women a mantra.
Soy mujer, soy campesina, soy importante, tengo valor, puedo aprender. Vamos a ver si es cierto, bájalo.
And those 5 phrases, each of them means something so moving to these women who may have never heard these phrases in a positive way directed towards them.
Nosotras las mujeres pensamos que no, que es diferente, que los hombres son más fuertes, que los hombres son los que tienen que hacer los trabajos pesados, que la mujer es para estar en la casa todo el tiempo, fregando, cocinando y haciendo cosas domésticas.
A lot of the women here are very dependent on their spouses. Most of them didn't get a higher education, don't have careers, so they're dependent on the salary that their husbands make. So having them here, you're important, you have value, you can learn, is something that, you know, a lot of them may have never heard before.
No es solo trabajar, podemos hacer todo lo que ellos hacen. Miren, ellos comen, yo como. Ellos caminan, yo camino. Algunos no caminan, hay mujeres que no caminan. ¿Okay? Ellos bailan, yo bailo.
And also I think that our boys can learn a lot from Women's Day. That might not apply to them, or they can't relate to the phrases soy mujer, soy importante, but they can relate to opening their eyes as to how they can make women feel empowered back at home.
Bien contenta de ser campesina.
Amén.
The people living in the communities in which we work are extremely special human beings. And as you go through your experience, as you go through your trip, you learn that these people are just like you. They were just born into a different situation. They have a different opportunity. And that's one of the biggest components of being on a Blue trip, understanding how blessed you are and the opportunities that you have.
So seeing how the volunteers really just start to get it, and that Campo magic really starts to click, and they begin to understand what it is to live a simple life, to be humble, to be grateful for what you have, no matter how much or little it is, to live in the moment. All these things start to click around the middle of the trip, and you really, when you see that unfold, it's so rewarding.
En el nombre del Padre, y del Hijo, y del Espíritu Santo. Amén. El Señor nos bendice de ir consiguiendo lo necesario para tener una vida digna. Dentro de la realidad de necesidad que tenemos como seres humanos está lo del agua. Una comunidad sin agua es una comunidad que tiene media vida porque le falta lo esencial.
When the road is long, when you're feeling low, with every breath, don't forget how far you've come.
Water Day is definitely one of the best moments on every Blue trip. It's the pinnacle of our project.
A project like this is really the foundation and the groundwork for more things to come. You know, so what we're doing is special, what we're doing is important work. That's why we love it. That's why Blue Missions exist, because when we came for the first time, it completely opened our eyes.
For them, it was really give more, receive less. And that really helped me to change my perspective of life, because always at home, I'm always wanting more and always wanting more. And I realized that wanting more is not really the way to go. It's giving more and asking for less.
And being able to realize what you can do in this world is what makes this whole mission so impactful.
Everyone is together, volunteers with the locals. It's just such an emotional moment. And seeing the reactions of the Dominicans is really my favorite part. Sometimes you see people come out and bring out soap and they start bathing under the new water, and it's the first time that they're ever showering under running water. And just seeing the reactions of everyone. Everyone throws each other into the water because they're so excited and they want everybody to be involved. So you have Dominicans throwing in our volunteers and our volunteers just hugging each other, and it's really an awesome moment.
Yeah, I know it's hard when you face the truth. Hey, that friend of mine, you say it feels like you're out of time. But I promise you, we'll make it out.
The feeling one gets upon completing a project is a sense of fulfillment, in a selfish way. We come to work in these communities to give so much of ourselves, but we're really receiving more than what we're getting.
And upon completing the project, volunteers return home with a new perspective into communities different from their own.
Most of those first impressions from our volunteers is that when they arrive to these campos around the Dominican Republic, is that first realization that, wow, there is something else besides that life we have back at home that's worse. But at the same time, it's not worse at all. Like, you can tell by the emotion of the campesinos, the way they work with their everyday lives, with what they have. It kind of makes you feel like you have something less fortunate back at your home.
The people in the community have more, if you will, right? They know what it is to be a community, to help anyone and everyone. I mean, complete strangers are willing to help me, go up a mountain and help me use a tool that I've never used before when I was out there for the first time. And I didn't know them. I was there for 2 weeks helping them work on this project, and yet they became a family to me.
You have kind of like this reverse culture shock when you get back home. You've been living in the campo for 9 days. It makes them realize how much need there is in the world and how they have a role in that ecosystem of giving to play.
Our goal is to end the water crisis, and that's our motivation each and every day. We won't stop until we live in a world where each person has access to clean water and sanitation. The work we do is important, but at the same time, it's work that makes us extremely happy inside, and it's work that we understand is necessary and that we're fulfilling our purpose.
For me, blue is family.
To me, blue is the solution for the water and sanitation crisis.
To me, blue is unity.
To me, blue is purpose.
To me, blue is family. Blue has taught us that family is not just blood. Family is everyone in our world, and we're all connected.